if they weren't able to join us today. So welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Dr. Amy Lauer, and I am a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Marymount. Lots of familiar faces in here today. So the purpose of us getting together today is to have a couple of recent psychology alumni from Marymount share their advice and experience and wisdom with you about all things graduate school related. So I want to keep it very casual, very accessible today. So if you have questions for our panelists as we're moving along, I encourage you to put those in the chat, or you can click on reactions and click on raise hand, and I will call on you when the moment permits for that. A couple other reminders: if you could make sure to leave yourself on mute when you are not speaking. You're welcome to have your cameras on or cameras off, whatever you're comfortable with. But if you could go in and change your display name so we could see your first and last name, that would be excellent as well. Just so we know who's here, so we know who we're chatting with. Other than that, let's go ahead and get started. So I would love to start by inviting our panelists to just introduce themselves a little bit about where they are professionally right now, what kind of graduate program they're currently in, and just kind of get us oriented to get started today. So let's go ahead and start with Jasmine.
Hello, my name is Jasmine De Los Santos. I am class of 2019. I did receive my bachelor's in psychology, and I received a minor in criminal justice. I am currently in my third year at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, and I'm in the PsyD program for forensic psychology. So hopefully, I'll be obtaining my master's and my doctorate within the next couple of years. So that's what I'm currently at. School-wise, work-wise, I'm a full-time case manager at a domestic violence shelter called Haven Hills. So I'm a case manager that kind of oversees the transitional program. And as of now, I'm providing support to 13 clients. So that's what I do work-wise. I also do provide some individual counseling there, as well as running groups. And I'm also a practicum student at New Youth Therapy Center in Santa Clarita. So I'm also doing individual therapy for clients there, and some psych testing. My first year was really focused on testing, a lot of testing clients, of course, under the supervision of my supervisor. This year, it's more focused on therapy clients.
You've got a lot going on, Jasmine. All right, thanks for sharing. Fatima.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fatima. I'm also a class graduate of 2019 with a bachelor's in psychology as well. Currently, I am a working student also. Funny enough, I go to the Chicago School of Professional Psychology as well, but I am in the marriage and family therapy program. I'm currently in my second year, first semester. It's been great. It's been amazing, actually. I get to go back in person and see all of my classmates, so it's been a plus. Work-wise, I am a residential counselor, actually, to adolescents with substance use and mental health disorders. It's a full-time job. It's very, very physically and mentally demanding, but I love it nonetheless. Prior to that, I actually took a year off between going to my master's program and finishing college. I was actually a behavioral therapist prior. That was also really fun. I really do miss it, but I thought it was important to make sure that I have all age groups under my belt. So that's why I was working with children. I'm working with adolescents, and let me see if I can try and squeeze in adults and older individuals. So yeah, that's me. Hi, everyone.
Great, thanks so much. So I think it's really interesting that you both are studying at the same graduate institution, but on completely different pathways. So I think maybe a good place to start might be to have each of you tell us a little bit about how you decided on your particular program and at your particular institution. So maybe just talk about what were some of the factors and some of the things that you considered as you were looking at different graduate schools, different programs within graduate schools. How kind of the application process, how many did you apply to, like what was your process there? Jasmine, how about you first?
Yes. I was always interested in criminal justice. I never really saw myself, as an officer, FBI, none of those, but I was so interested in the field. So I decided at Marymount, I did go in, as a psych student, but just for fun, really, to take intro to criminal justice. One thing about the program that to this day, I love about MCU is that, we had a lot of guest speakers talk to us about their experience. And I know Professor Toomey would always say, you might be interested, but if you're not on site or at a jail site or in just different settings, you may not really like it. You might the field, but you might not like the settings, and it's not the pathway. And that was exactly it. I did like the field of criminal justice. I just didn't necessarily see myself in that position. I did like, we had a field trip once to, I believe, a jail site, and I loved it. I was not scared. And I was like, okay, something with criminal justice. I took forensics psych at MCU, and I was like, this is it. I knew off the bat. I was just loved the course. Dr. Draper, you were my professor, loved it. And I knew it was forensic psychology since then. That was my first year. I believe I took that class. And then I just kind of continue to do research. I knew off the bat forensic. I did talk to, a couple advisors from different schools. And they kind of, they kind of talked to me about it in the sense of like, are you sure it's forensic? Because when it comes to forensic psychology, they did say you can go for clinical psychology, right? And just have that focus of forensic and say that that's your specialty. You don't necessarily need to get a degree of forensic psychology. But there was just something that I was like, no, I knew forensic psychology was it. So I decided to stick with forensic psychology. So looking into grad school, that process, I was looking for forensic programs, masters. Masters, really, I'm going to be completely honest, I wasn't planning to go straight for the PsyD doctorate program. I was planning to do masters and just maybe down the line go for a doctorate, but my main priority was masters. I applied to 3 schools. I applied to Cal State LA, um, California Baptist, I believe, in Riverside University, which both offered master's program in forensic psychology, and then the Chicago School. I initially wanted to do the master's program at the Chicago School in downtown LA. So I did research on all 3 programs, and the Chicago School actually had an open house. They had an open house, and that was something that I really liked that they offered because other schools didn't necessarily. They had someone like a counselor you were able to talk to and kind of, pick their brain, talk about the program. But the Chicago School had an open house to kind of let students talk to the advisor, the professors, and just the administration team. So I jumped on that. I actually let my mom, I was 21 at the time, and I was like, Mom, I need your opinion on this. I want you to go with me just for more support because it was kind of scary in my head. And that's when I was talking to the admissions, and they were informing me about, we talked about my grades and just my transcripts and everything and what I'm involved in and internships. And they informed me that, based on my background information, they suggested, they were like, why not go for the doctorate program immediately? Why not just give it a go? If you are not accepted, you immediately, be qualified for the master's program, but why not do it? They were like, consider it as, you're stepping out. If you see yourself wanting to be a doctor in the future, just go for it. And if, things don't go well, they'll review it. They'll kind of see if you qualify for the master's program. If you get accepted to the master's, great. And then you could reapply to the doctorate program later down the road. So I did that and I kind of got in. And that was just a conversation I had with my, department chair. He did say, the doctorate program at the Chicago school is 4 years, a master's is 2 years. One thing that they did, make it clear, we're very vocal about it, is the doctorate program, it's a lot more demanding when it comes to class and just schoolwork, but it is doable. They did also state that if I were to do the doctorate program after 2 years, I can't just say, never mind, and can I have my master's? It doesn't necessarily work like that. It would be, you took some classes, you have 2 years under your belt of a doctorate program, but you do not have a master's degree. So that was something they did share with me. They were saying kind of, it's a risk, and it's kind of seeing like, where do you see your life? Are you willing to make some sacrifices when it comes to, social lives, working specific, and just having that extra time for your schoolwork and for practicum. And yeah, that was just kind of an overview of my journey through it. I did get accepted to Cal Baptist. I actually did not, did not get accepted into Cal State LA, and I did get accepted into the doctorate program at the Chicago school. And now I'm here.
Great, thank you. Sounds like, I'm going to come back to discussing with you how you manage all of the things that are on your plate, doctoral level studies with practicum and with work that you're also doing. So we'll come back to that. Fatima, let's hear a little bit about your journey and how you ended up in your graduate program.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Jasmine, for sharing. It started very much as, I don't know what I want to do. So for those of you in the group that if you just don't know what you wanted to do, I was exactly where you were. All I knew is that I wanted to help. I grew up very much as a helper. If somebody needed me, I was there. I was like, Kim Possible, call me, beat me if you want to reach me, kind of thing. So I started there. And I knew that I just wanted to help people. And I looked at all of the options. I knew there was a class that I took with Dr. Draper as well in my undergrad, where we were looking at different like sub types of psychology. And I don't remember particularly what I did, but I knew that the one that I did, it was like, it's not really for me. I think it was occupational psychology, and it just wasn't really for me. And then I realized, like, I was looking up, psychology was very much individual based. Psychiatry was prescribing medication. I didn't like any of that. I started looking at marriage and family therapy, and it's very systems based. It's very much including everybody. And I was like, it's starting to trickle more down that way. I also noticed how I didn't want a field where it was too much, where it's very strict and things like that. I didn't really want that. And I saw that marriage and family therapy was very much my calling. I was also interested in, because I also have siblings, and I was like, how does my birth order affect how I grow up? And it was just, it just made more sense like that. And when I started my program at the Chicago school, I figured that it was very much solidified. Like, this is it. This is what I wanted to do. I actually found different programs to apply to through the WPAA convention that I went with Dr. Lauer and Dr. Kochinda a couple years ago. And there was a section where there was schools that was available, master's level program. There was Laverne, there was Cal Lutheran, Chapman, a bunch of programs. And I actually only applied to 2 schools, which was Chapman as well as the Chicago school. And both of them I got accepted into, but for one, I believe Chapman was only an online program that they had offered, and I didn't like that. I'm not well with sitting in front of a computer for like 8 hours in a day. Like, I have to move around, I have to do something. And the Chicago school, yes, it did start off like that, which I was very frustrated by, but I toughed it out and we are back on campus and I love the program. You know, I'm still very much in tune with what I'm learning, with what I wanted to focus on, because it's going to happen while you're in your program that you're going to start thinking, is this really for me? It's going to happen. It's happening to me now. But, you know, when you think back to why you were here as opposed to what you're doing now, you know, it'll keep you moving. It'll keep you moving through your program. So that's my start.
That's a good piece of advice there. I think what's really refreshing to hear from both of you, and I know that our current students, a lot of them feel this way, and I'm sure will appreciate hearing this, that both of you kind of just followed your interests. Like neither of you really graduated with a plan of like, you didn't approach your senior year at Marymount like, okay, I know for sure I want to go to graduate school, I want to get this degree, I want to do that. You just kind of, you each sort of just followed where your passions and where your interests were and ended up in a graduate program and working towards a career that is going to sync up with those passions. And I think that's really important for our students to hear. I know a lot of our seniors particularly are thinking, they kind of know some things that they like, maybe don't know exactly what they want to do with that or what they want to study. And it's okay to not know that right at this moment. That's one of the things that an event like this will hopefully help to start to bring into focus a little bit. So again, I want to encourage those in attendance, students, faculty as well. If you have questions at any time, this is a very informal kind of information session. So if you have questions for our panelists, please feel free to enter them into the chat at any time, or if you'd like to ask them verbally, you can click on reactions and click on raise hand, and we'll handle questions that way. So please don't wait till the end. Feel free to pipe in anytime. What I would love to hear from both of our panelists about is kind of balancing school and work, because it sounds like you're both working as well as taking graduate classes. So I know that's a familiar concept for a lot of our students. A lot of our current students as undergrads are working a lot and balancing that with school. So it'd be great to hear you both talk a little bit about how you balance that. And actually, maybe we'll put a pin in that question because I see Melissa's got her hand up right now. So Melissa, welcome. Thanks for coming. What's your question?
Thank you. I have to actually jump off in 9 minutes. I have Cal Lutheran on meeting on Zoom. So my questions, ready? Okay, for everyone, for both panelists. So real quick, so the behavioral therapist, did you have to get certified, Fatima?
So for behavioral therapy, when I was applying, because I know it's starting to change a little bit more, when I was applying, no experience is needed. However, I became a BCAT, board certified autism technician, and I got an increase. You don't need that, but it's helpful because it also, unfortunately, with insurance, it looks better and all that jazz. So it's almost like required, but more highly recommended to be licensed like that.
Thank you so much. Okay, next question. Chicago School, is that accredited with APA?
That's a fantastic question. Jasmine, do you know that?
Yeah, it depends on the program. So I do know that was something they vocalized, and I was, I didn't know much about it really. Dr. Draper was kind of my source. And, when I got accepted, I was like, they're not APA. The forensic portion is not APA. The clinical psychology doctorate program is. So it just depends on the program. So I know the forensic program is still awfully new. We're not. The doctorate, the PsyD and clinical psychology is. So it just depends on the program. And admissions is, they were very vocal about it, and they explain what the difference is, and, if it really matters, what your goals are, and they'll kind of guide you through that path too. So just
thank you, Jasmine. Okay, and then I don't know if you guys are willing to answer this, but can you guys both share your GPAs, the clubs, internships, and your experience that you've had when you were applying?
Yes. Fatima, you want to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so sorry, Melissa, one at a time. What was it again?
Okay, GPA.
My GPA at the time of applying was 3.7.
Cool. All right, clubs.
The clubs I was in, unfortunately, the only one that I was a part of was peer health group because I was also working at the time, so I had to make sure that I balanced it out. But
Okay.
at the time of application, it was just a peer health group. Yeah.
Okay. And internships while you're undergrad.
Internships while I was an undergrad, it started with the Boys and Girls Club, and I actually internship there, volunteered, and paid internship and volunteered there all 3 years, or for
Perfect.
3 years of my undergrad.
Okay. And that helped you on the interview, correct?
Yeah, having that experience, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And any other experience just working, like you said, and that's it? Like any other questions they asked you on the interview that would help out?
Interview questions, things like what drove you to pick
Okay.
this program, what makes you stand out, because there's going to be a lot of individuals there that will stand out. What makes you a good candidate. It sounds very similar to a job interview almost, so just
Okay.
I don't mind. Yeah.
So you had the junior seminar, so it's pretty much aligned with that, what we learned, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. All right, that's it. Okay,
Really
Jasmine.
in the class.
Okay, Jasmine, GPA?
GPA, I believe it was a 3.6 ending. And I am going to be very vocal during my interview question. So I immediately jumped into the doctor program. I was like, okay, why not? And if I don't get in, I'll do the master's. My interviewer was actually the department chair, and I did my research on that. So it's good to do your research if they give you a name. Sometimes they tell you you're going to be meeting with this person. Do your research, look them up on the school website,
Thank you.
anything. Do all of that because it's good to know. Also, they might have projects like of their interest too, or what their degree is in. So that's what I did. He actually brought up, he was like, I'm going to be completely transparent with you. Your GPA is a little bit lower than our, what we accept for the doctorate program with just a bachelor's. Could you expand on that? So, they do see everything. I was very vocal about just focusing on internships, ensuring this is the field that I wanted to do. I was vocal about working and internships. I really want to say that's what helped me as well. I did the Boys and Girls Club my first year.
Okay.
Second year, I kind of talked to Dr. Toomey about wanting to be in the criminal justice psych field, and she connected me, who was also a professor there for about a year, and I was able to be a forensic advocate at the Children's Advocacy Center for forensic interviewing, and I think that was great. I loved it. It was a little bit of a drive, but I was like, I want to do it. I did it and I loved it there. And then going into, applying to grad school, I did share that I was already looking for jobs in like the, social services field and everything. So that helped me as well. But those two internships really helped, I think, on my application and just being vocal about why I want to do this. But like Fatima said, why are you a good candidate? What do you know about the program? And then always have questions for them too. I think they enjoy that, and they know that she did her research, but there's some pending questions that she may have too as well.
Thank you guys so much. Like seriously, that was invaluable. That's so awesome. Thank you so much.
Can I clarify one thing for you, Melissa, that might help? APA approval is like the highest level of approval, and you don't necessarily need that. There's not that many programs that are APA approved, but always accredited. You wouldn't want to go anywhere that wasn't accredited. So accreditation is sort of the minimum. So you may not necessarily need APA approval school, but you do need an accredited school.
Okay, and that will be good for after I do my hours after the PsyD program or the PhD program to sit for licensure then? Anything accredited, right?
Yeah, make sure you can sit for licensure. So if you want to be an MFT, you need a program that's approved for licensure.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Dr. Draper. And thank you, Dr. Lauer.
Of course. Thanks for coming, Melissa. Thanks for
Okay,
your
I'm gonna
questions.
hop on my next Zoom with Kalu.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, Melissa.
Bye.
Okay, great. I'm glad we were able to take a moment to answer some of her questions. Very targeted towards graduate school, of course. So glad she was able to make it. Let's go back to the question that I was posing before. And that is how you both are balancing graduate school, like graduate level work, with also working in the field as well. I know a lot of our students do that as undergrads. So if you can maybe focus on kind of what's different about it as a graduate student, if there is anything different about it compared to what it was like for you before. So Fatima, what can you share with us?
Well, you don't sleep a lot. I can tell you that much. Start there. You don't sleep a lot. I actually didn't jump right away into my master's program. I did, like I said, take a break. I took a year break, and that's where I was working as a behavioral technician. And at that point, I wanted more to just focus on saving money. I wanted to make sure that as soon as I started school with my master's program, I had something saved should I need not to work. So I had that planned out, but by the time I started with my master's program, I ended up still working. So I'm still currently working. And it's, like I said, you don't sleep a lot. There is a lot more writing involved. There's a lot more reading involved. There's a lot more communicating with students and communicating with the teachers a lot. The workload was very different from my undergraduate program because because the program now is very much focused on marriage and family therapy. So there's a lot more moving parts to it. I think what made it easier is the fact that my job now, I'm working with marriage and family therapists. So I still get that outside learning and outside application of what I'm learning in school. So I think it's helpful that I was fortunate enough to pick a job where I can use those skills and apply those skills. With my last job, yes, I loved it. It just wasn't for me. So that's why I found myself moving. And on top of that, I want to say that if you are working while you are in school, remember to just take a couple breaks every so often. You know, you're allowed to still take breaks. You need to take those breaks. And yeah, really it.
Thanks, Fatima. Jasmine, tell us how you're juggling all of these things.
Like Fatima said, I don't remember the last time I slept for 8 hours, but it's hard. It is hard. I do remember meeting with the department chair after my interview. He did say, he looked at me, he's like, you can't work in this program. And I looked at him like, no, I need to work. I need to pay bills, right? And be financially stable. He was like, he looked at me, he's like, you'll understand, like you'll comprehend, but I think you're able to do it first year, second and third year might be a little bit hard for you. So I was kind of like, no, I think he's just saying that, but he was right. And I say that because, for my program specific, year 2 and year 3, you have to do practicum hours. Practicum 1 and practicum 2. They ask for practicum 1 to be therapeutic or like your therapeutic hours for therapy or psych testing. If you can get a psych practicum, they want you to do that for psych testing to get that experience and have those hours under your belt. And then year 2, whichever one you didn't get the placement for, and that's kind of where I saw myself, like he was right in the sense of like I don't know if I can necessarily do it. One thing that I am very grateful for is that where I'm at now, they were very understanding that my school was first, because I did let them know I have to decrease my hours. It's a lot. And I want to say, mentally first year I was like, okay, I could do this. It was just schoolwork and hours, work hours. Year 2 was kind of more challenging, and I had a commitment of doing 17 hours, and it was psych testing, right? So with psych testing, you have to put aside 3 or 4 hours to do that, and then the report. And because I was placed at a practicum site where there's billing involved, so it has to be a fast turnaround because you have a supervisor who has to review it, edits to be done, and then you have to submit it in order for them to make profit out of it, insurances. So that's where I was very vocal with my job, and I did let them know, unfortunately, I don't necessarily think I could produce the best work, and I would like to decrease my hours. They were very understanding. It was also, second year was COVID year, so it was a lot of remote, and they did tell me, provide me your work schedule, the amount of hours you want to work, and we'll work around that. So that, that was necessary. That helped me a lot. And then when it came to year 3, I actually took less classes this year. I met with my advisor and I did let them know, where I'm at right now financially, with school and work. I need to take a step back. I don't think I could take the full hour, like the whole 6 classes, also work on, your dissertation plus the hours. I was like, I need to take a step back just from the work, the class load. And they were very understanding. I was very vocal about, where I was at, mentally and physically. The pandemic took a toll on everyone, and just working in the field, and then doing your practicum hours as well. It wasn't burnt out, but it was a lot psych. You would do individual counseling at work, and then you would have a therapy appointment, and then you'll have like a psych test that you have to do with the client, and then all the notes. There's a lot more writing when it comes to your case notes for work, or whether it's just documentation overall. It's our best friend in this field. So I did take some time. I talked to close friends, family, and I realized I want this degree. I really do want to obtain my PsyD. If I don't finish in 4 years, a 5th year won't, it won't kill me. It won't be so bad. So I decided to do what was best for me, but it was challenging. And, like Fatima said, at one point was just work, school, homework. And I had to take some breaks and remember to take self-care, because it could be a lot and it could take over, and that's not the goal. It's to finish. And it, even though a lot of us, I know year 1, it's like, I want to finish in 4 years, but if you finish in 5, 6, if you take a break or decrease from full-time to part-time, it's okay, as long as you're taking care of yourself and you are working slowly but surely towards the goals.
Really good advice. Certainly all of us in the field of psychology understand the importance of mental health, right? So that goes for during graduate school as well. It's a really stressful time. Good question in the chat from Professor Carlos, asking about if you're grouped into cohorts in your graduate program, and what's that like, and how has that helped you, during these stressful times of being a grad student? Either of you have cohorts there that you're grouped in?
So in my program, no, actually. They made that very clear during the interview process that we're not part of cohorts. And that was more for ease of taking classes. So I remember the example that they said that if you're located in like LA, you could take a couple classes in downtown LA. And then if you decide to move to San Diego, you can still finish your program and take it in San Diego. So it was really convenient. I liked knowing that. I mean, I myself won't be moving anywhere anytime soon, but it was nice to just hear that. But at the same time, like, it didn't feel like, I also thought like, oh, I don't have a cohort, it's not going to feel like the full graduate experience. But going through my program, it is very much still the true graduate experience. Like, there's so much to do. And you find that cohort in the friends that you make at school. So I have like my group of people that I shoulder on, that they shoulder on to me. So it's a different experience to not have the cohort, but at the same time, still having that time to find people who are like your cohort.
It's so
Yeah,
funny.
Jasmine, how about you?
It's so funny that you asked that question in the group chat, because I said the same thing during orientation, because My program does have a cohort, but like Fatima said, I kind of considered my group of friends the kind of my own group of cohort. But during orientation, they were referring to cohort a lot, and I looked at someone that I met that day, and she also got her bachelor's in psych, and she got a minor in criminal justice. We kind of became instant friends that first day. I looked at her and I asked, "What's a cohort?" And she's like, "We're a cohort. Like these, I walked in and there was 17 of us. So ideally there was 17 of us, and that's your cohort. A cohort, so to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is kind of the group of students you start with and ideally you finish with them. But I am very vocal about, they might label it as a cohort or your group, but a lot of us are on different routes. And I say that because a lot of us are already petitioning for, dissertation. Some of us have, taken breaks from the program and because life happens, or they become moms. I have a classmate who became a mom, took a year off. So, or for instance, me, I took less classes this semester, and that kind of puts me with another cohort, but my cohort dissertation process, there's some people who are on a faster track, so they might be earlier on that process. Some people are, so to say, taking more time, and that's just because the research, the stats, the approval, all of that fun stuff. So yes, I am technically in a cohort, but no, because we're all at our different pace at the end of the day, and it's really just the people, the friends that you make, right? And the group that you study with, you communicate, and you kind of just ask for assistance along the way. um, there were 17 of us now that I know of, right, from orientation. There is 9 of us. And again, some of us have taken breaks. Some of them, I have like 3 friends that are not doing practicum because they're focusing on dissertation. I have, a friend who just took the semester off, a new mommy. So you'll see a lot of that, and that's really normal. I didn't believe it, but even the professor said that's normal. So yes and no, and I hope that answers your question.
Really great answers from both of you, actually. Thanks for that. We have another question in the chat from Professor Ugly Oliver. Looking back at your undergraduate experience, would you have done anything differently? Maybe different study strategies or different networking, relationships with professors, anything like that? Is there anything that looking back you would have done a little bit differently, looking back from where you are now as a grad student? Fatima, what do you think?
I think the only thing that I would do differently is probably have volunteered and interned at more than just the Boys and Girls Club. It was a really great experience. I loved working with those kids. I love working with kids that are rough around the edges. I always have, still am. But I think if I had gotten more of that experience, I would have been able to really had more options maybe. But other than that, I mean, I think I've created the connections that I needed. My friends are they look up to me and ask like, "Hey, what should I do with this? What should I do with that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let me help you. Like, I'm here to help you." But really, the only thing is just like maybe have expanding my reach to the community, maybe.
Looking back, I think one thing about MCU and I still love is that we're such a small school, right? You guys have that opportunity to connect with all your professors and ask questions. I know year 1, I was just kind of like, no, I'm scared. Year 2, I was like, slowly but surely kind of coming out of my shell. And I want to say that really helped me from, going to all the professors you see here and the criminal justice professors as well, because that's kind of what helped me in the sense of like, okay, you're interested in this field, but you don't want to be a police officer. So why not do the psych portion of it? And that's kind of what helped me get the internship I had my last year, my senior year, right? And I think just going to clubs and these meetings and the events that are hosted for psych students. I think that's something I didn't necessarily do, but I think they're beneficial because you get to meet other students that you probably have a lot of classes with on the same boat as you. And it's good to have an extra person or someone by your side through the application process, kind of maybe not sure what they want to do, and just kind of exchange notes or research on programs or what your goals are. So I think that's something is my word of advice would be, we're Marymount's such a small school that take advantage of it, meet with your professors. They might not be in the field in particular, like if forensic, but they might know someone of it, right? That you could possibly connect with and ask questions, or they might know in particular more research on this specific route, or they have their own stories to share about how they ended up where they ended up and what degree they have. And it's always great to kind of just go that extra mile and meet with them and ask them those questions.
Thank you. Just looking at the time, it's about 12:15. I know there are some classes that start at 12:30, so I want to be cognizant of the fact that we may have some students and faculty that need to hop off of here in a few minutes. So one more time, I want to encourage you, if you have questions, to please put them in the chat or click on reactions, click on raise hand, and you can ask a question that way. While I am waiting to see if anything pops up in the chat, this kind of is a nice segue from what you were just saying, Jasmine. You mentioned a little bit of advice that you might have. So that's kind of what I wanted to end on. The last question I want to ask you both today is what is the main advice, one or two or a few pieces of advice that you would give our current students who are thinking about graduate school and looking up to you as graduate students now? So what's some like parting words of wisdom that you might share with those in attendance today? Jasmine, we can start this time.
Definitely go for it. Go for it. Meet with your professors, even if you don't necessarily know where you want to go, right? Or what pathway, take a course. I have friends who took time, don't be afraid, but if this is a dream, definitely apply and just kind of explore the different options that there is out there. I know at times there's horror stories about I didn't finish, it was too hard, my mental health. It happens. It definitely does. But one thing I love about my school in specific, and I hope it's the same for you, Fatima, is that some professors are understanding. They get it. We're in mental health. The pandemic, it took a toll. Sometimes there's a lot of pressure to finish in 4 years, but it's okay. Take your time. If this is something you want, slowly but surely, meet with your professors, meet with the admissions office, be as transparent as possible because you're not alone. They're understanding of it. And believe it or not, your cohort is too. I do recall when I was going to take less classes this semester, I was scared. I was like, what are they going to say about me? Is this like going to be looked down upon? It's very common. Life happens and it's okay. But, don't be discouraged if there's bumps on the road. You have a support system here at Marymount, and you have a support system at whatever school you decide to go to. So it's just taking that, kind of get in your comfort zone and applying to these programs and advocating for yourself and, working towards your goals.
Awesome. Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, a couple things I would say is, the biggest one is really take care of yourself. I know that at my current job, I tell my kids a lot whenever they need to check in with me is that no one's going to take care of you as well as you take care of yourself. Find that time to just figure out what you want to do. Nobody's going to tell you what to do. No one's putting a gun to your head to tell you what to do. Go for it. Like Jasmine mentioned, it is very scary. It's so scary because you're working towards essentially putting someone's life in your hands. And that's a very daunting, very scary thing to think about. But when you remind yourself again why you started all of this, it becomes a lot easier. And another piece of advice is, that support system. Again, no one's going to take care of you as well as you take care of yourself. But at the same time, everybody deserves somebody that they can rely on. And that has turned into my partner. My partner has really, really been there for me. You know, my mother has been there for me, my friends, chosen families. I'm that chosen family for you. And yeah, sleep as much as you can now before you start. If you can sneak a nap in, sneak a nap in. If you have to sleep in your car, sleep in your car. And it's okay to treat yourself with a nap, with a meal. You're important too. So that's my word of advice to everybody.
Interesting that you both mentioned sleep and how little of it you get as a grad student during the same week that in physiological psych, our unit this week, the chapter is on sleep. And of course, you know, I've been focusing on how important sleep is, how important it is to, you know, get 8 hours-ish a night of sleep because of all the wonderful things it does for your brain when you get enough sleep. So of course, there's a balance, right? Balancing graduate school and work and life things, and also getting some sleep too. So, you know, don't just ignore the sleep. Let's see, I'm not seeing other questions popping up in the chat, and I know people are going to start to trickle off of here in the next few minutes probably. So excuse me, if there are any other questions, we've got a few minutes to address them. And if I don't see any questions pop up, then I want to just once again thank so much both of our panelists for joining us today, Jasmine De Los Santos and Fatima Ferreras, for coming and spending some time with us. And I want to remind everyone here, students, that you always have us, you always have your MCU psychology department. Fatima and Jasmine know this, and you know, if you use us, we will always be here for you, even after you graduate. If you maybe don't go to graduate school right away, but you're might, you know, a year down the road, maybe you're thinking about it, come back to us. We will help you. All of the faculty that are in attendance here today, as well as those who weren't able to join us, we are here for you. We're here to support you. We want to help you achieve your goals, help you figure out what your passions are and how you can work towards those and follow those. So I'm happy to, if our panelists would allow me, I'm happy to share their emails with anyone who might want to get in touch with them with any questions. Looks like they're both nodding their heads. That's great. Thank you. So if you have any questions for our panelists after the fact today, whether it's about their particular types of graduate programs, marriage and family therapy, or clinical forensic psychology, right? Is that it? About their types of programs, or just more general questions about grad school, they would be happy to answer those. So, you know, if you may be connected with them on LinkedIn or elsewhere, or you can email me and I can sync you up and hook you up via email. So I'm not seeing any other questions popping into the chat. So thanks to our panelists, thanks to everyone who attended today, some of my fellow faculty members, as well as some current students that are here. So thanks everyone for coming. I hope you've learned a lot. I hope you have some good advice and info to take with you on your future graduate school journeys. So thanks a lot, everyone. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.